Well, good evening, happy stampers, and welcome to my happy stamping studio. So, tonight is Tools and Techniques Thursday, and I want to welcome all my live viewers. If you're live on Facebook or on YouTube, welcome. And for those watching on replay, I'd like to welcome you too. So, please say hello. I am streaming on StreamYard this evening. Oh dear, my phone decided to lock up. So make sure if you're watching on Facebook, that you give StreamYard permission to post your comments. And I am just looking here to see if I am live yet. And there we are. So, okay. So awesome. Turn the volume down. So I had a little mishap before I came on. I had a little container with some water in it and I spilled it. So I needed to go get another paper towel and some water. So we're going to be doing lineless watercoloring tonight. And I am using a new product out of our July through December mini catalog. And we get to see the inside of it tonight. How excited are you? I am so excited to be able to show you. You know, starting July 1st, I could have actually showed you. And unfortunately, my videos weren't working here on Facebook. One of them posted, but I could click on it and see the video. And I thought, oh my gosh, thank heavens it worked. And then I heard from some of you that you couldn't get into it. And then my other 3 videos that I had pre-recorded before I went out of town didn't post either. So I would like to apologize for that. And I missed you guys. So hello, Denise. How are you? She said, oh, she is in Phoenix with COVID all this time, and you did not get it. Oh my gosh, I feel for you. It's probably just as hot there as it is here. As you guys know, we were away for the holiday weekend. We went away with our family and spent some time with our boys and our grandchildren, and our niece and nephew came up also. So it was a good time. Weather was a lot cooler than it was here. It was in the 70s and low 80s, and here in the Chicagoland it was almost 100, and it was 100 a couple days. So I missed you guys, and several of you have contacted me and said, Judy, I miss your videos. When are you coming back live? I was planning on coming on live last night, but my husband and I kind of laughed. We said, oh, we must have had jet lag. Even though we didn't take a jet, we drove in a car, but we had jet lag yesterday all day. Neither one of us could get moving. And I says, oh, I need to do a live. And he says, oh, and well, then I fell asleep and took a nap. So I was napping when I was supposed to be on. So I want to apologize for that. So I'm going to flip you guys around and we're going to take a look at the new catalog. And remember, if you are not currently working with a demonstrator and you would like a catalog, just contact me and I will get one sent off to you. Okay, so when we look at our mini catalog on page 50, we find this Hello Harvest bundle. It is a stamp set which has 11 cling stamps in it and also a coordinating die set. And in here, they show you some wonderful examples here. And it looks like they watercolored some of these. I'm not too sure because I have not looked up yet. But we are going to be using this. And it also has some coordinating paper. Let me go on the page before. I can't remember if it's a whole suite. Yes. So if you go to the page before, it's got some more samples with the coordinating Rustic Harvest Designer Series paper. Now, I am not using Designer Series paper today, and it is found on page 49. It is gorgeous. So we got it right there with some more samples, and they show you with the different dyes. And they also have some leaves right up here on page 49. They've got some leaves and some gems. It's a combo pack, and I can see doing some fun things with the grandchildren. Also here, I want to point out, an embossing additions toolkit. Oh my gosh. You guys see me use my trays. Those trays were old and retired, but they have brought them back in this mini catalog. They also have a set of tweezers, a brush to brush off the embossing powder from your tray. I use these brushes all the time. This is different. We had some black ones before. And then they have brought back our embossing buddy. Excitement. Yay. Several of you have asked me, where can I get it? Because we weren't carrying it. So I encourage you to get this if you love heat embossing. We aren't doing that tonight, but we will in the future. And I will show you those. And also you will find 12 by 12 basic black cardstock in here. We do not carry it in our annual catalog. So stock up, you guys. You know, we are so happy as demonstrators that they brought this back. And I will tell you, I do a lot of scrapbooking and I use 12 by 12 black. If you are not a scrapbooker, but make boxes or 3D items or even your cards, sometimes if I need 4 by 3 pieces of cardstock, I will use 12 by 12 paper, you guys, because it comes out equally with absolutely no waste. So let's get on with tonight, okay? So like I said, we'll be doing lineless watercoloring. I'm going to use the pumpkin, and depending on how time is, I'm thinking of doing these flowers also. And I may also use this leaf. I've got them all prepped already. And then here are the dies. And what I like about these dies is they have these 3 pumpkin dies here that coordinate with each other, and they're embossed also. Make gorgeous cards. You can cut the pumpkin out. You can cut the leaf out. You can cut the flower bouquet out and the banner. And then they have these little viney squiggly things, which are great also. And we have a flower here. And I don't know if that cuts out one of the flowers, because I'm going to be honest with you, I have not used this set yet. So I have busted it out just for you guys tonight. So, okay. So we're going to get going. So we're using our card base as pumpkin pie. It measures 5.5 by 8.5. I went ahead and scored it at 4 1/4. Now, I have been cutting my paper in front of you lately, but on my Thursdays, I'm not going to be cutting cardstock. I do that on Wednesdays for my back to the basics so that you guys see how to efficiently cut your cardstock. And then I have a piece of Cajun Craze that measures 4 by 5 1/4, which we're going to layer on that. Then for our watercoloring tonight, I am using our Fluid 100 watercolor paper, and I have 1 sheet left in here. I go through this like crazy. Oh my gosh, that is actually the back of the label. So we are not using that. Let me grab a new pack. I have not, and I don't want to try it tonight, but I am thinking that I could almost watercolor on that, but that would be another piece. But I'm not sure. I have to test that. So new pack, and we are going to take this out. Now, our watercolor paper is 100% cotton. And you say, well, does that make a difference? Yes, it does, because it absorbs the water and lets you move the color around a little bit more. Now, we could also do this technique on our shimmer white cardstock. And if you remind me, and you guys have to make a comment near the end of this and say, Judy, show us your bird picture, because I did a class on this a couple of years ago, in-person class, and probably about 3 years ago now because of COVID. And we did this bird that was lineless watercoloring. Now these sheets are 5 by 7, just a little bit shy of 7 inches. So since it's 5 inches, I know this is 5 1/4. If I wanted to use this entire thing on here as a layer, I could, and just cut it at 3 3/4. And so that's what we're going to do here. But I wanted to show you the whole sheet so that you understood that they are larger pieces. So we're going to go 3 3/4. And did you know it is watercolor month? So I am going to be showing some different watercoloring techniques throughout the month in my lives. Now I'm going to keep this piece because I haven't decided yet if I want to layer this on, and I may. So what I'm going to start with is I am starting with Sahara Sand ink. And that is because you could use this or any other light colored ink to stamp your image, because we don't want to see the lines. We want people to think that we are an artist, right? So I have to decide, do I want my card going that way or this way? I think I'm going to want it going this way. So I am going to ink this up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp off. So I'm going to stamp there, and then I am going to stamp on here with my pumpkin. And I'm just going to give it pressure. Oops. Okay, I got a little line on there. I shouldn't have pushed so hard, but that's okay. We'll wash that away. And how are we going to wash that away? Well, we're going to use our water painters tonight. Now we have a set of 3 water painters that have 3 different size bristles on them. The wide one, the skinny one, and the middle bear. So this is Papa Bear, Mama Bear, Baby Bear. Okay? And they all should have lids on them, but I lost a lid. So what you can do is you want to squeeze the barrel. And as you can see here, see how it gets darker? That means the water is going down, and you can see it going into the brush. Now, I just want to wash that away a little bit, and look at how I can just kind of wash that. But pumpkins aren't perfect, so we don't have to keep it exactly perfect. So I like to give it a spritz with our spritzer. And oh my gosh, Judy forgot to fill a spritzer with water. Ooh, I think that this one may have water in it. Oops. Yes. So this spritzer has water. So I am just going to spritz my paper a little bit, just so it's got some water on it, so that I don't need to use as much water when I color. Now I start with my lighter color. And so what I'm going to start, and I'm going to actually spritz the back of this too. That way it doesn't curl as much. So what did I just do with my spritzer? I just had it here, right? Oh my gosh, just that easily. Here it is, right in front of me. Oh my gosh. So I'm spritzing the back of the paper too, so that it doesn't roll up on me. And it's okay if this ink bleeds, because watercoloring is not perfect. So I am going to start with my lightest color, which is Crushed Curry. And I am just going to take my brush, which has got water in it, and I am just sliding it along the side of the ink to pick up some water. And I want some more water. I like a lot of water. Okay, so I want my light highlights to be Crushed Curry. And in here, we're going to do the center. So I am going along where the 2 edges meet. And just in the center there, I don't have to go all the way up. Okay, I've got a paper towel here, and I'm just going to clean off my brush in the paper towel. Then I'm going to get some color for my pumpkin pie. So I'm squeezing the bottom to the lid to get color into that lid. You could also take your reinkers and brush over the entire pumpkin with this color. And I'm staying within the lines, but if my color goes out of the lines, I'm not too worried about it. Okay, and see how those colors are blending, and we still have that light. So I am just following those lines that we stamped. Okay, and as you see, as we layer color on this, those lines are going to be disappearing. Okay, I flipped my brush over to do this right line. Okay, and now I'm going to flip my pumpkin upside down, And I want to get the bottom little ridges on the bottom of the pumpkin. So I'm just going to take my brush and follow those lines. Okay, so we have our painting lines, as I call it, but our stamped lines are beginning to disappear. Now we want to get those lines back in there. And like I said, you can see some of the color is washing out of the line, and that's okay. Don't fret about it, you guys. Watercoloring in true life is not an exact science. If you want, I'm going to take my damp paper towel and my finger, and I'm just going to kind of go right along that line. It's going to have a little bit of color there, but we're going to be putting that bouquet over, so I'm not too worried. If I want to wash it out, I can either clean this brush, but I'm not going to clean this brush because I'm going to use it more. I'm going to take my next brush, and it does not have any water in it, so I'm just going to take water and kind of go along those edges. And I'm pushing the color back into the pumpkin. Then I can take a paper towel. Now, normally I don't do this. I'm going to be honest with you. Normally I just let it bleed and I deal with it later. Okay, next I want to go into my Cajun Craze. And for the Cajun Craze, once again, squeezing the lid and the bottom together, getting ink right there. Okay, now I'm taking a smaller brush. I'm putting some water on the side, and I'm picking up some color. Now, Denise, I know you're a painter, so I think that this would be a technique that you would really like. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to take this color and I'm going to be coloring right here and up at the bottom. Okay, just kind of coloring this. Now, if you are using acrylics, it's the same as side loading your brush. I got a little bit too much water in there. So what I do is I just rub my paintbrush or my painter through there and wipe it off onto a paper towel. So, and this is pretty wet. I normally let it dry just a little bit in between. I'm just going to get some of this dark color going up the side of the pumpkin. Okay, following those lines, I can make my own lines because those original lines have kind of disappeared. So I'm just bringing those up. Okay. Now, if you have too much water on there, you could blot it. I don't do that. I just go with the flow. With watercoloring, once again, you don't have necessarily exact lines. So we're just blending this out. I can still see those lines a little bit. And don't worry if an area gets a little bit too dark. Okay, we're bringing that down. Just covering those lines up. And we can even make them go a little bit wider because you can't see those lines anymore, right? So I'm just, with my side-loaded brush, just following those lines. Okay. Some areas can be darker. Okay, now I'm going to take my brush and I'm getting some color just on the tip. And what I'm going to do is we had some shading down here. So I am just going to take this and I can very lightly see those lines down there. So I am going to go ahead, color that, wipe it off a little bit, and blend them out with my brush. Just like that, because we don't want exact lines. We want everything to blend together. So I am just moving that color with my brush. Okay. Okay. So we've got that. And like I said, I'm not too worried about the bleeding down here. And I'm going to show you why. I am taking this oak leaf. And along the bottom here, I'm going to ink this up. I'm going to take that spritzer and I want to move this. Kind of move everything away. And I am going to spritz my stamp. Make sure that the spray end is in the right direction. And I want to spray my stamp, and I'm getting a lot of water on there, a little bit more water than I wanted. So I'm dabbing some of that off. In fact, let me dab it way off. Let's do that again. I was paying attention to where it was spritzing instead of paying attention what I was spritzing. So I'm holding it on its side and just giving it 2 light spritzes. And I don't want to put it on its side too much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down here. And I'm just going to hold it there for just a second. And then see how we have that leaf? That's exactly what I want. Now, if you have a pool like this, you can move that ink a little bit. But see how that gives it the effect that you watercolored? And you can fix that. So a lot of my orange that is around the bottom is gone. Okay, we're going to do that again. I'm going to dry my stamp off because I don't want all that water into, and I want to hold this flat. And I'm doing this rather quickly tonight, so it might bleed a little bit more than I want. I'm going to spritz this off to the side because I held it a little bit too close. So I got a little bit too much water, but that's okay. And we're going to do this one here. Hold it so that all that ink and water are absorbing into the paper. Okay, hold it. And look at it, see how much better that one came off? Now what I could do is I can take this one, kind of hold it over the top and stamp it again. Okay, and it's not going to be perfect. We're watercoloring. Okay, I'm taking my brush and I want this one to, I'm not going to say bleed out. I just said it. I want it to bleed a little bit. Okay, normally I would take my heat gun to it and let it dry up a little bit. But we're going to do our stem now. And for our stem, I am going to use our Sahara sand. So I'm just going to pick up some ink with my brush. And there's a little bit of ink in there. And remember, Sahara sand is the color that we use to stamp. So this is really going to blend in to our stamp. Okay, I'm going to let that go down. And just like that. Okay, now I'm picking up some mossy meadow. Let me see if I don't have to get any more ink there. I'm just going to pick some up and dab some mossy meadow on there. Give that stem just a little bit of a green hint and across the top. And that water is moving that ink for me. Okay, so got that so far. So I am going to do a little bit of a background just because my orange really bled. So I'm going to clean my brushes. So what I'm doing is I am squirting the water down into the brush. See how it's dripping? You may not be able to see that real well. And it's going to get that ink out of that brush. I'm just going to keep wiping and squirting. Okay, so we've got that clean. So I'm hoping that this is a little bit dry enough. So I'm going to pick a color. Let me see. I don't want Night of Navy and I don't want a light blue. Oh, I need a medium blue for this. Well, I guess I will be using Night of Navy. So I already have Night of Navy in here, and I just want to see if this is dry enough. And it looks like it is. This is all bleeding. Not bleeding, but spreading out. And I should have a fan here to dry this. I'm going to get my heat gun. I didn't want to use it if I didn't have to, but. So once again, I would normally kind of let it dry up before I got into the next color. But as you can see, it works okay. I just want to dry this up just a little bit around the edges. Okay, I'm going to take that Cajun Craze for just a second. And I want to show you my leaf spread out quite a bit, right? So I'm going to take my brush with just a little bit of water and ink, and I'm going to clean up my leaves. So I am going to see how it's spread there. We're actually going to make that part of the leaf. And I did it kind of dark so you could kind of see it. And we're going to do that here too. So we have our base, and once again, you guys, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just remember that. You could have this leaf out in front of you and see what it kind of looks like. So I am just, now see how I'm forming that leaf? I need just a little bit more water. Now you don't need much water for this because we already have the water in there. So we have that. So I'm going to go to this side now and do the same thing. So I'm just going to bring this leaf up and form that leaf. And it doesn't have to be the same as the other side because no leaves are the same, just like snowflakes. So we're just going to bring and give more of a definite line to our leaf. Okay, and I'm going to turn it this way and work on it towards the bottom. Now, I love this technique because it makes you look like an artist, and you don't even need to know how to. So see how I'm pulling that one out? Right there. And we're going to make a little one here. It doesn't have to be exact. Okay, we're going to have that come right there. And this is supposed to look like that according to the stamp. I'm going to bring this one out just a little bit more. There we go. Here. I'm just going to do that. And you know, your leaves can have some dark spots and some light spots, and they don't have to be filled in all the way. But I am just going to, whoops, a little bit too much water. Take my water and blend that in a little bit. Okay, and see how I did that? Okay, I am going to take my heat gun and dry that because I want to do the blue next. Okay, so I am going to do some Night of Navy next. So I want to side load my brush. And when you side load a brush, I'll show you how I do that. For those of you that don't know, I don't want a lot of ink in here. I want a little bit more. Okay, so when you side load a brush, I have this brush, right? When you side load, you're only loading one part of the brush. You're not going to do the entire brush. So I'm going to get some water in here because I want this fairly light. But what's going to happen is the ink is going to pull from this area right here into the brush. So I'm going to pick some ink up, and I'm going to pick it up again. I want it watered down. Okay. And I'm going to start up here at the stem, and I am just going to run that blue along that line. Okay. And I'm going to wash it out again, side loading that, and just bringing some color right around, not touching those other images too much because I do not want this to pool and make it look muddy. So I do want this a little bit darker along my pumpkin. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush out a little bit, and I'm going to add some water, and I want to pull some of that color out. Okay, and blend it right there. So I'm picking this up. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Add it, and just bring it right along the edge. And I need more water. It's not pulling like I want it to. So there I go. Let's try that again. I'm And then as I pull my brush around, see how that color is moving out from the pumpkin? And I move it right into the leaf there. Just kind of flick it. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. Oops, I got it too close to that leaf and I'm pulling out some brown, but that's okay. That's going to add to our pumpkin. And I'm just going to kind of wash this out. In fact, I'm going to put some more water on my paper and just play with it. There's no wrong or right way to do this. Okay, I'm going to pull a little bit more. And it doesn't have to be an even border around. I'm going to pull it out, some color out over here. Now I'm going to be real careful with this in here because when I touched it, kind of pulled some of that Cajun craze out. That's a really deep color, so I'm just dabbing. I'm going to wipe off a little bit. So I'm going out into the water here on my palette or my lid. So it's mostly water. Okay, and I can just keep moving that color out. You don't want a lot of ink. See how it's very, very light. I don't want it really dark. I'm just pulling it out. No definite line around the outside, but I just want a little bit of that color. Okay, so that's so far. Now, normally I would let it dry and start another one. So let's dry it with our heat gun. And I'm going to flip it over and dry it from this side also. And see how it curls up? So now we want it to curl the other way. So see, it's starting to straighten out. Okay, so now I want to get a little bit of color down here because it's still kind of floating. Clean my brush out. I want to get all that blue out. Okay. I should have probably done the Cajun craze before I did the blue. Once again, I try doing my lighter colors first. I'm going to fill it with water. Get a pool of water there and go into my Cajun craze. And then I'm just going to wash some color on the bottom. And it's okay if some of that bleeds or washes into that Cajun craze, the Cajun craze. Just get some of that color right down there. Pick up some more of this watered out Cajun craze. Oops, I want a little bit more ink. I got a little bit dark on the other side. So let's get a little bit of dark in there. Okay. Let's kind of meld those together right there. Some of that color up there. Okay. It's looking good so far. Now, you do not want to leave that pool of water in your lid because if you tip your lid at all, it will kind of leak ink out. So I kind of just dab it with paper towels. Your fingers do get kind of inky here. So, doing good so far. Hello, Janet. Hey, Patsy. How are you guys? Or do we want to put that on there? Well, let's try doing it and see how it comes out. So once again, I'm going to grab my Sahara sand. I'm going to ink it up. This time, I'm not going to stamp off. I'm just going to lightly tap it, just like that, very lightly. And then because I want a little bit more lines on here, well, I'm going to go to the other side. I do want more lines because some of the lines I want to leave on here. So this is really dark this time. You guys are thinking, but I can hardly see it, Judy. Oh, no. We're using the same colors. So I'm grabbing my smaller brush. I am not going to spritz this one though, because it's got some fine detail in it. So I'm just picking up some color in my brush, and I'm going to dab it in the center here. Remember, you don't have to follow the lines, but as you can see, those lines are already disappearing. Okay, because that's a water-based ink, kind of melts together, as I call it, but it blends together. Okay, so then I'm going to go to the Cajun Craze, or crushed curry. That was Cajun Craze. And we are going to do the flowers. And this time I'm working with smaller images. So what I am going to do is going to color every other petal. Okay. Sometimes I add a little bit more water to make it a lighter. And I can keep going around this, as you can see, without reloading the ink. Okay, I'm going to actually pick up, I got some water in here, pick up some of that ink right there and go into this one. And by doing that, it's going to give these petals some different shades. Okay, and see. Now you can still see some of those lines in there, but don't worry, they're going to be disappearing. So I'm just going to color all my sunflowers crushed curry. And those lines are already beginning to melt in. Now you will kind of notice that the Sahara sand, I call it the khaki of our colors. It takes on a green tone, it can take on a brown tone, and sometimes it can take on a blue tone. But depending on the colors you're working with is what tones it's going to pick up. I want a little bit more water, and let's I'm coloring just with the tip, you guys. I see I missed a petal here. I'm going to go in. So I've got those all colored, but I want to add a little bit of a deeper color. So I'm going to go to my pumpkin pie because that's the next color choice anyways. Just take my water. You can see I'm dabbing it off because we have smaller images, so I don't want the color to bleed as much. So I am going to take and just do some strokes in each petal. Just very, very light, tiny strokes in here and I'm just following the stamped image, the lines from the stamped, and it doesn't matter if you go from the inside out or the outside in. You just very tiny lines. That's why I'm using the smaller brush. Oop, that one got a little bit big. The Cajun Craze is a darker color, so I can just wipe some of it off in there. It's a little trick. So my colors are actually blending a little bit and kind of melting and combining with each other. And that is all going to depend on how much water you have in your brush and how much you press down. When you're painting, you're actually painting with ink. So we're just going to do this and give those darker ones right there. Okay, so now we have a bunch of leaves. We still have flowers. Let's do these flowers out here. I'm going to do these orange pumpkin pie. So we're going to cover those in there and just color those long ones. I guess you could say those might have been black-eyed Susans, let's say. So we've got 1, 2 of those. Okay, and let's see what other colors I have here. So I have Mossy Meadow. Mossy Meadow is a dark green, you guys. So if you are going to use Mossy Meadow, use more water. Okay. When you're first learning, I would recommend that you start with like Pear Pizzazz or Old Olive. They are lighter colors. So we're just going to add, got a hair sticking out here, some green to some of these leaves. Let's get that on there. But you want the color dark enough so that those other lines disappear. Okay. And sometimes you might find that you need to go over your watercolor a second time, and that's okay. I also take my Stampin' Write marker in the coordinating color, in the same color, and do the lines so that, and we'll do that too. So it covers up that line. So this, as you can see, if you are just starting out, you are going to want to do a larger image like the pumpkin. And that's why I did that. But I did want to show that you could do the same technique here with smaller images. It just takes a little bit more patience and a little bit more time, a little bit less water. So I am just, okay, so that I'm going to get a little bit more water in there. And I'm going to go over what I just did. Okay, I added a little bit of water. That's going to allow me to do more of the images before reloading my brush. Just like that. And I am leaving the rest of the images with the Sahara sand. I'm okay with that, but you could do as much as you wanted to with this. Okay. I said I was going to show you something, and I forget what it is. Okay, so we have that blue around our pumpkin. So we want to add some of that blue around this image also. So, but it is going to be die cut. So I don't have to be as particular with it. So I'm getting some water on my brush. And remember, I said we want very little ink. So I inked up that brush, and let me see. There we go. I'm just going to pull some water, and it can pool up because watercoloring, sometimes it does pool up, right? So let's get in some, and I'm dabbing in some areas. I'm going to pick up a little bit more. And whoops, it's a little bit too much there. So when I get to the center, I'm dabbing. I'm not brushing. I'm dabbing up and down. Okay, to add some of that color in there, I'm pulling away from the stamped and colored images. And I'm not going way out because we are going to be die cutting this. A little bit of dabbing and pooling is okay. Watercolor, that's what that's all about. You know, I always say watercoloring is not for perfectionists. If you are a person that wants everything to look perfect, watercoloring is not for you, because it is never going to look perfect. You're always going to get deeper tones and lighter tones. Okay, so that is going to be drying. Let me clean off my brush. Let's see how this came out. Okay. So I'm happy with that. I think it looks great. So hang on just a second. While we're having that dry a little bit, I'm going to show you one of the birds I did. I did another one. I don't know where it's at, but here is one of the birds I did with no line watercoloring. And see, even up close, you cannot see the lines. Okay, so the bigger your image, the better off you are with color when you're first starting. Okay, and I did let the colors dry a little bit in between time, which I didn't do here, and that's why we had a lot of water on here. Okay, this one is a little bit better. So I'm going to let's get our dies out. So like I said, it has coordinating dies, and it's the rustic pumpkin dies. And this right here is the coordinating die, and I think that's dry enough. Now, normally these dies do fit the mini machine, so that is awesome, you guys. You may not see me cut this, but because I got my camera closer tonight, just because I knew you guys would want to see what I was doing up close and personal, right? So I'm just going to cut this out. So let's go. Here we go. Take that out. Let me get it up here. Oh, I'm dropping everything. There we go. So there is our cut image. And see, you really don't see a lot of that blue on there, that night of navy, right? Look at all the night of navy I left on here. But it's not stark white behind it, which is the effect I wanted because of washing out the pumpkin. Now, you do not have to raise this because it's already another layer here, you guys. Isn't that gorgeous? And I am loving these leaves. I don't know about you guys. I am loving them. We could pop it up, but I think I am just going to tape it flat down. So let me get my silicone mat. And I think I'm going to use liquid glue because the watercolor paper is thicker. It is pretty smooth, but it does have a slight texture to it. So we're going to take this. Let's place this on. Do we want to place it on straight? No, I want to do it a little bit crooked. Okay, which is odd because I don't like crooked. Okay, now I grabbed some of our gold ribbon that returned, and I need to cut this. Get this started here. Oh, I should have opened this. And I'm thinking now maybe I should have done, oh, you know what? We have some gorgeous twine. In the new mini, you will find the silver and twine. It's a threaded twine, and it's got some silver in it, and it's thicker than the baker's twine. I am going to tell you that, but let's just do a bow for right there. Just a little bit longer here, and twist it over where those two leaves meet. And pull that through. Pull that down a little bit. Pull it. There we go. And I think our two bunny ears are just about even. Let me get my paper snips. And just like that. Okay. I was using my glue dots earlier. See if I can find them. Oh, they're right in front of me here. So, how many of you are enjoying this new catalog? I'm going to put that right there and see how that changes that. Okay, so let's get our card base. I've left room at the top of that for a sentiment. Go ahead and grab our Stampin' Seal. Oh, we've gone almost an entire hour tonight. A long one. Can you tell I missed you? I wanted to spend some extra time with you tonight. Okay. So this would make a great birthday card. Now, this edge came up because I pushed it the wrong way. I actually colored on this wrong opposite side of cutting it. So I want to push that edge down. So I showed you that trick on my Back to the Basics of taking your bone folder and just rubbing around those edges so they don't stick up. And we are going to go ahead and get this on here. This would make a great fall birthday card, Thanksgiving card, happy to see you card. There we go. And there we go for our no line watercoloring. So the pumpkin, no lines at all. These we stamped and spritzed, and this I left some of the lines on there, and I can still see some of them on the sunflowers, and I may go back and color over those once it's dried up a little bit. But that is our no line watercoloring for tonight. So yes, so let me see. Okay, I'm going to see the comments. So Marilyn says, my flowers look perfect to you. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you know, they do look pretty good in here, but I don't want to see so much of the lines on them. So I am going to go over the edge just a little bit. I might use the crushed curry marker on it also to have those lines disappear a little bit. Pumpkin and leaves look like you drew by hand. Yeah, you know, that's the whole idea of the no line watercoloring, is for those lines to disappear. And remember, when I stamped the flowers, I didn't stamp off with the Sahara sand, but you can use Cajun craze. You could, for the pumpkin, I could have actually done Cajun craze, inked up the pumpkin, stamped off, and then stamped it, and it would have blended also. But I like using Sahara sand. It blends any color that I color with. And it does take a little bit of practice, I'm not going to lie. Start with larger images. Start with the large sunflower that we have is a good stamp to start with. Large birds like the one that I showed you before, this one. And it, you know, you can't see the lines at all on this, you guys. People were amazed during the class when we did it, and they go, well, I don't know if I want a bird picture. I says, listen, you need to start somewhere. Start with the larger images. I just thought the pumpkin was the best image for tonight. But I did want to show you that you can do it with smaller images too, once you practice a little bit. But I would love to hear you guys what you use this on. And you know what? You can share your cards here. And I would thoroughly enjoy seeing one of your cards that you do with this technique. You know, show me the very first card that you do. And then, you know, practice a little bit and then show me another card in the future, or maybe in a couple days, or at the same time. You know, okay, this is my first one. This is my third one. Practice with one image, practice with the pumpkin, and see how much better you get with each time you do it. So, thank you so much, Marilyn. Glad you loved the card. And Janet, thanks. I'm glad you liked it. So, Denise, hope you get over your COVID soon and get feeling better soon. And for the rest of you, until we meet again, happy stamping, everybody. Bye-bye.